It is Tuesday, August 4th, 2020, and this is your International Report. We have 3 items to cover today, including at least 13 dead, 1,000 displaced as heavy rains flood South Korea. Also, courtesy of Reuters, Somalia sets up disaster warning center to battle floods and locusts. And last but not least, courtesy of express.co.uk, inside China's enormous underground doomsday city. Let's hop into it. And our first article comes courtesy of globalnews.ca. At least 13 dead, 1,000 displaced as heavy rain floods South Korea. Days of heavy rain caused floods in South Korea that have forced more than 1,000 people from their homes, killing at least 13 with another 13 missing, authorities said on Tuesday. Deaths were reported from landslides and vehicles swept away by waters that disaster officials said inundated more than 14,211 acres of farmland and flooded parts of key highways and bridges in the capital of Seoul. President Moon Jae-in was set to hold an emergency meeting on Tuesday after he had urged national and regional authorities to make all-out efforts to prevent further loss of life the previous day. Work crews also returned to operation by Tuesday. Flooded roads and bridges along the Han River in central Seoul had backed up traffic and damaged infrastructure. In neighboring North Korea, state media warned of possible flooding, saying that some areas were also experiencing heavy rainfall. Citing unidentified South Korean government sources, Yonhap said North Korea opened the floodgates of a border dam on Monday without advance notice to its neighbor. And our next article is courtesy of Reuters. Somalia sets up disaster warning center to battle floods and locusts. At a government building in a former United Nations compound in Mogadishu, Qadar Sheikh Mohammed stares at a bank of giant screens displaying weather conditions across the country. Mohammed is the director of the new National Disaster Early Warning Center, designed to help Somalia predict disasters. This year, Somalia has already suffered from flooding and a locust invasion. Finding the accurate data, which may save lives, is important for us, he told Reuters at the center. The center opened in June and is funded by Saudi Arabia through the United Nations World Food Program. It was conceived after cycles of floods and drought caused widespread food shortages, including a famine in 2011 that killed more than 250,000 people. The United Nations says that out of Somalia's 15 million people, 5.2 million currently need aid, and more than 2.6 million are displaced due to fighting and natural disasters. Somalia has been wrecked by civil war since 1991. And a fragile federalist government is battling insurgents. The violence has destroyed almost all the country's infrastructure and driven many educated Somalis abroad. But in recent years, the internationally backed administration has been trying to rebuild government institutions. At the center, dozens of Somali analysts use the latest satellite data from temperatures to wind pressure to provide early warnings for flooding, drought, and locust movements. Government officials said they had initially struggled to recruit skilled workers locally. Somalis don't really have the expertise, said Mukhtar Sheikh Hassan, the Director General at the Ministry of Humanitarian and Disaster Management, so they had hired foreign experts to train local analysts. Now the center is fully staffed by Somalis, said Mohammed. Sometimes you have only 24 or 72 hours to evacuate people. If the information is in another language, it takes more time to translate and disseminate. Now we are able to release warnings quickly. Thank you for watching this video. If you're finding it informative, please consider giving the channel a subscribe. And our last article of the day comes courtesy of express.co.uk, inside China's enormous underground doomsday city. China has a huge underground city below Beijing that was built after Chairman Mao instructed his citizens to dig deep tunnels and store food. Known as Dixiashang, meaning dungeon, there is no official disclosure of the total size of the complex, nor exactly where all of the tunnels are located. But it is believed to cover an area of more than 31.25 square miles and connects to all of the city's major government buildings. Former president of the People's Republic of China, Mao Zedong, instructed his citizens to dig deep tunnels and store food, and so around 300,000 civilians got to work. The Beijingers, under the guidance of army engineers, created a vast tunnel network of around 10,000 atomic bunkers, plus restaurants, theaters, warehouses, factories, farms, sports facilities, and everything else a community might need to survive a nuclear war. Even the air ventilation could be cut off from the outside world, and according to some accounts, the government boasted it could house the entire population of central Beijing, around 6 million people in 1969. Dixashang was never used for its intended purpose, and so in the 80s several sections were handed over to neighboring authorities who turned them into offices and shops. However, most of the subterranean world is privately owned, and many owners of sections turn their bunkers into tiny residential units, offering them at around a third of the city's skyrocketing rental prices. And I think this is a good place to wrap up today's video. We'll be back tomorrow afternoon with another update on the Three Gorges Dam. I hope that you found this video informative, and check back soon for more content.